Freedom in realization begins when the veil of illusion is lifted, when you come to see that most people are far too consumed by their own lives to truly care about yours. For much of life, human beings live in the shadow of imagined eyes, in the constant theater of judgment. We walk into a room and immediately think, "What will they think of me?" We speak with hesitation, afraid that our words may be mocked or misunderstood. We dress, act, and even shape our very lives as though some invisible jury is keeping score. But the truth, as startling and liberating as it is that no one is watching as closely as you think. People are trapped within the noise of their own minds, weighed down by their own insecurities, desires, and struggles. Realizing this is like having chains fall from your wrists, you begin to understand that the approval you chase exists only as a ghost in your imagination. Think of how many times you worried about being judged for something small, a mistake, a failure, an awkward moment, only to realize that everyone else quickly forgot. The spotlight effect convinces you that your every action is under scrutiny, when in reality, others are too preoccupied with themselves to notice for long. And even if they do notice, their opinions shift like the wind. What seems monumental to you is fleeting to them. A misstep that keeps you awake at night is often nothing more than a passing thought in another person's day. This realization softens the burden of living under constant observation. You begin to breathe more freely, no longer crushed under the weight of imagined judgment. When you embrace the truth that no one truly cares, a profound shift takes place in how you live. You stop tailoring your existence to fit the expectations of others. You no longer dress for applause or speak for approval. Instead, you act from your own sense of clarity, guided by your own principles. Validation seeking becomes irrelevant because you no longer mistake the opinions of others for the foundation of your worth. The irony is that the less you seek validation, the more authentic you become. And authenticity is the rarest and most attractive quality of all. By stepping outside the endless cycle of pleasing and performing, you reclaim your life as your own. This does not mean becoming callous or indifferent to others. It does not mean rejecting kindness, empathy, or connection. It simply means recognizing that your value does not fluctuate with the tides of external opinion. It means you no longer beg for recognition in a world where most people are too entangled in their own pursuits to give it. People may praise you one day and condemn you the next, but the wise person does not anchor their soul in either response. Praise is as empty as criticism if it defines who you are. The real freedom lies in seeing both for what they are, passing shadows on the wall of a deeper reality. Consider how much energy is wasted on crafting an image for others. People spend years projecting an idealized self, curating how they are seen, yet this image rarely satisfies. It demands constant upkeep and breeds anxiety. You worry that one wrong move will crack the mask. But when you realize that no one is paying as much attention as you think, you stop investing so heavily in performance. You can walk through life with ease, knowing that most eyes are glancing, not studying. They see you for a moment, then move on. Their thoughts scatter and their attention drifts. Why should your life be shackled by their fleeting perceptions? Freedom and realization also strips away the fear of failure. When you understand that people don't care as much as you imagined, the fear of embarrassment dissolves. You try, you stumble, you get up, and you try again. Where once you hesitated, now you act. Because what is there to lose? Who will remember the stumble? The truth is, everyone is stumbling in their own way. Everyone is caught up in their own story. And even when they look at yours, their judgment is shallow, temporary, and filtered through their own insecurities. To let that judgment guide your destiny is to hand your life over to shadows. Better to walk boldly in your own light. This realization also frees you from the suffocating need to be understood by everyone. You come to terms with the fact that not everyone will resonate with you, not everyone will approve of your choices, and not everyone will care enough to listen. And that is perfectly fine. The world does not revolve around universal approval. It revolves around authenticity, alignment with one's inner compass. When you stop trying to make everyone understand you, you find peace in being understood by yourself. That inner alignment matters infinitely more than outer validation. The freedom here is not small, it is transformative. Imagine how differently you would live if you no longer carried the burden of imagined judgment. You would speak your truth without hesitation, create without fear, and take risks without the paralyzing weight of ridicule. You would live lighter because the chains of external approval would no longer hold you down. You would finally begin to taste what it means to live for yourself, to live in harmony with your deepest values, rather than the shifting winds of public opinion. And here lies another paradox. Once you stop seeking validation, you often receive more of it. People are drawn to those who live unapologetically, who radiate the calm confidence of someone free from the need to be liked. They may not always agree with you, but they will respect you. They may not always understand you, but they will feel the authenticity in your presence. By no longer begging for care, you ironically attract genuine care. Not the shallow care of passing approval, but the deeper care of those who resonate with your authenticity. Yet even this should not be your goal. To seek authenticity only for the sake of validation is to return to the same trap. The true liberation is to walk forward without expectation, without need, without fear. To live because you are alive, not because others applaud. To speak because you believe in what you say, not because you hope it pleases the room. To create because it flows from you, not because you want the world to notice. When you no longer need them to care, you discover the boundless energy of self-directed living. What emerges is an inner stillness, a quiet strength that no criticism can break and no praise can inflate. A life lived from within rather than performed for the outside world. And in this stillness lies true freedom. The freedom to be as you are. The freedom to act without fear. The freedom to live without apology. This is the freedom born of realization. That no one truly cares, and that this truth is not bleak, but liberating. For in that space of indifference lies the room for you to finally be. Self-reliance begins with the simple yet difficult recognition that no one else is here to carry the weight of your life for you. From childhood, we are conditioned to lean on others, to expect help, to believe that someone will rescue us when the storm comes. We are taught to believe that somewhere out there is a person or a system that will step in and shoulder the load we cannot bear. But sooner or later, life reveals the deeper truth. Those who walk beside you can offer support, but the burden of your existence ultimately rests on your shoulders alone. And this realization, though harsh at first, is the doorway to strength. When you stop waiting for others to solve your problems, you awaken a dormant power within. Every time you place responsibility for your life in someone else's hands, you weaken your own resolve. You tell yourself that your happiness, your survival, your direction depends on the actions of others. You become passive, helpless, waiting for the world to change before you do. But the moment you stop expecting others to carry your burdens, you reclaim control. You say to yourself, if I must carry this weight, then let it be carried by me. And in that choice, you discover that you are stronger than you believed. It is not that others cannot help you. They can, and sometimes they will. But help is fragile. It comes and goes. It is not dependable. Even those who love you most are bound by their own struggles, their own limitations. No one has the capacity to live your life for you, to feel your pain for you, to overcome your battles for you. And when you stop expecting it of them, you release them from a responsibility they never could fulfill. At the same time, you release yourself from disappointment, because disappointment is born of expectation. If you no longer expect others to carry you, you cannot be disillusioned when they do not. You are free, because you know the weight is yours and yours alone. Every difficulty you face is an opportunity to test this truth. Imagine the moment you feel crushed by hardship. The instinct is to look outward, to search for someone who will come and take the weight from your hands. But imagine instead that you stand still, you breathe, and you say, well, this is mine to bear. In that instant, something shifts. The burden does not vanish, but your relationship to it changes. It no longer feels like a punishment, but like a challenge, a mountain that summons your strength to climb. You may stumble, you may struggle, but with each step forward, you prove to yourself that you are capable of enduring, and endurance is the root of strength. There is a quiet dignity in carrying your own burdens. It hardens you in the best sense, forging resilience that cannot be taught through ease. Those who always look to others to solve their problems remain soft, dependent, untested. They live in fear because their strength has never been proven. But those who carry their own weight, who face hardship without leaning too heavily on others, discover a confidence that cannot be shaken. They know that when life tests them, they can endure. They have walked through the fire before, and they trust themselves to walk through it again. Self-reliance does not mean isolation. It does not mean you reject the kindness of others or refuse support when it is genuinely offered. It means you do not depend on it. You do not demand it. You do not build your life upon the fragile hope that someone else will carry your cross. You accept help with gratitude, but not with expectation. If no help comes, you carry on regardless. And this attitude transforms you into someone unbreakable. The paradox is this: the more self-reliant you become, the more others are willing to stand beside you. People are drawn to strength, not to weakness. They are inspired by those who take responsibility, who move forward without complaint, who carry their burdens with quiet resolve. And in your strength, you may lift others, not by taking their burdens from them, but by showing them that they too can carry their own. You become a living example of resilience, and your very presence inspires self-reliance in those around you. Think of all the moments in history when individuals stood alone, with no one to rely on but themselves. Warriors, thinkers, leaders, wanderers, they found within themselves the courage to press forward, even when abandoned, even when misunderstood. Their greatness was born not of being carried, but of carrying themselves when no one else would. And though you may not stand on a battlefield or lead a nation, the principle is the same. Your life is your battlefield. Your mind is your kingdom. And only you can rule it. When you stop expecting others to carry your burdens, excuses vanish. You can no longer say, I would have succeeded if only they had helped me. You can no longer wait endlessly for someone else to take the first step. You are forced to move, to act, to take ownership of your failures and your victories alike. This responsibility can feel heavy, but it is also empowering. Because if your life rests on your shoulders, then your growth, your freedom, and your destiny are entirely within your hands. The truth is that strength is not discovered in comfort. It is revealed in struggle. Every time you refuse to hand your burdens to someone else, you give yourself the chance to grow stronger. You realize that your limits are not as fixed as you believed. What seemed impossible yesterday becomes bearable today. What crushed you in the past becomes manageable now. Each burden carried builds the muscles of the spirit until you can stand in storms that once would have broken you. And what greater gift can you give yourself than that kind of strength? To know that you can endure, that you can rise, that you can keep going even when no one comes to rescue you. To walk with the certainty that you need no savior because you have found that savior within yourself. This is the essence of self-reliance, not arrogance, not pride, but the unshakable knowledge that you are capable of facing life as it is, that you do not need to beg others to carry you because you are built to carry yourself. Self-reliance, then, is freedom. Freedom from disappointment, freedom from dependency, freedom from the endless waiting for others to solve your problems. When you embrace it, you discover that you are not as fragile as you once believed. The burdens that seemed unbearable become the very source of your strength, and every step you take under their weight makes you more resilient, more capable, more alive. Detachment from opinions is one of the most difficult yet most liberating practices a person can embrace. From childhood, we are conditioned to look outward, to measure ourselves through the eyes of others, to crave their praise and to fear their criticism. Every word spoken about us seems to carry weight. Every glance feels like judgment. Every reaction becomes a mirror in which we search for our worth. But when you live bound to opinions, whether flattering or condemning, you are never truly free. You are a puppet, pulled by invisible strings, moving not from your own will, but from the approval or disapproval of the crowd. Detachment breaks those strings. It does not silence the voices of others, but it makes them powerless over you. Praise feels sweet, yet it can be as dangerous as criticism. When people speak well of you, when they applaud your efforts, when they raise you up, there is a temptation to lean upon that praise as though it were the foundation of your value. But praise is fickle. The same lips that celebrate you today may condemn you tomorrow. If you depend on it, you will live in constant fear of losing it, adjusting yourself endlessly to maintain it. Praise can seduce you into vanity, into complacency, into living not by truth, but by performance. It tells you what pleases others, not necessarily what is right. If you are not careful, it becomes a leash disguised as a crown. Criticism, on the other hand, is sharp, cutting into the heart with ease. It is the disapproving word, the dismissive glance, the mocking laugh. For many, criticism feels like a wound, and the instinct is to shrink, to conform, to silence oneself in order to avoid it. Yet, like praise, criticism is fleeting and inconsistent. Much of it comes not from truth, but from projection. People criticize from their own wounds, their own insecurities, their own limitations. To let criticism dictate your path is to hand your destiny to the broken voices of others. When you detach from both praise and criticism, you begin to walk with clarity. You see opinions for what they are, reflections of others' minds, not reflections of your essence. Opinions are shaped by bias, by mood, by culture, by personal wounds and fleeting perspectives. They shift with time, with context, with circumstance. What is praised in one era is condemned in another. What is criticized in one place is celebrated in another. If you tie your life to such unstable ground, you will never stand firm. Detachment means you no longer measure your worth by these shifting sands, but by the bedrock of your own principles. Clarity comes when the noise of opinions no longer clouds your vision. Imagine walking through a fog of voices, each one shouting directions. Go left, go right, stop, run, do this, don't do that. Without detachment, you stumble, pulled in every direction, paralyzed by contradiction. But when you detach, the voices still echo, but they no longer command you. You walk straight, guided not by the chaos of external judgment, but by the compass within. That inner compass, your values, your reason, your authenticity, becomes the only voice you must follow. Authenticity blooms when you are no longer enslaved by the need to please or the fear of offending. You act not because it will earn you applause, nor because it will avoid criticism, but because it is true to you. You speak words that align with your heart. You make choices that reflect your convictions. You live a life that resonates with your deepest self. This is authenticity, the courage to be genuine in a world that rewards masks. And it is only possible when you let go of the intoxicating highs of praise and the paralyzing lows of criticism. Consider how much energy is wasted on the opinions of others. People lose sleep over words spoken behind their backs. They replay conversations endlessly. They analyze facial expressions for signs of approval or rejection. Entire lives are built around avoiding ridicule and chasing recognition, yet none of this leads to peace. The opinions of others cannot sustain you, for they are outside your control. The only control you possess is over your own actions, your own intentions, your own alignment with truth. When you focus there, when you live in accordance with your principles, opinions lose their hold. They may come, they may go, but they no longer determine your state of being. Detachment does not mean arrogance. It does not mean dismissing everyone and closing your ears to the world. Wisdom can still be found in feedback, guidance, and perspective. But the difference is this: you listen without chains. You hear without bending your identity to every word. You consider what is said, and if truth is in it, you accept it. Not because you fear disapproval, but because truth itself is valuable. And if the opinion is false, unjust, or empty, you let it pass without anger, without despair. You remain unmoved because your foundation is not built on the unstable ground of others' perceptions. Freedom lies here, when praise no longer intoxicates you and criticism no longer wounds you. You are untouchable. No flatterer can manipulate you, no critic can silence you. You become steady like a mountain that remains unmoved whether the winds carry sweet fragrances or bitter smoke. You act with calm clarity because nothing external distorts your vision. This freedom allows you to take risks, to create boldly, to live without fear of judgment. For judgment loses its power over one who no longer needs it. Think of the greatest works of art, the boldest ideas, the most revolutionary lives. They were all born from individuals who were willing to be misunderstood, willing to be criticized, willing to move forward even when praise was absent. If they had waited for applause, their creations would never have come to life. If they had feared criticism, their voices would never have been heard. Detachment gave them courage, the courage to live authentically, regardless of what others thought. And that same courage is available to anyone who chooses to release the grip of opinions. At the end of the day, both praise and criticism fade. The applause of yesterday is forgotten. The insults of yesterday lose their sting. People move on to other targets, other heroes, other villains. But what remains with you is the integrity of your own actions, the truth of how you lived. If you live for opinions, you will always be at the mercy of their disappearance. If you live for authenticity, you carry a strength that no external voice can grant or take away. Detachment from opinions is not coldness, it is clarity. It is not indifference to people, it is indifference to illusions. It is the choice to value truth over approval, authenticity over performance, and integrity over image. It allows you to stand in a storm of voices, smiling, steady, unshaken, because you know who you are, and that knowledge is enough. Peace in perspective arises the moment you release yourself from the illusion that the universe is constantly orbiting around your own troubles. For much of life, human beings carry the heavy burden of exaggerated self-importance. Every slight inconvenience, every disagreement, every misfortune, we inflate into a cosmic tragedy, as if the entire structure of existence has bent itself against us. This tendency to imagine that our struggles are the axis upon which the world turns creates unnecessary suffering, because it narrows our view until all we can see is our own pain. The truth is simpler and far more liberating. Your struggles are but a passing ripple in the vast ocean of life. They are real, yes, and they shape you, but they are not the center of the universe. When you come to accept this, life immediately becomes lighter, because you no longer magnify every hardship into a catastrophe. You learn to place each struggle in proportion, to see it for what it is, an event, an experience, a season, not the defining essence of existence itself. Think of a time when you felt weighed down by a problem. Perhaps it consumed your mind, stealing your sleep and crowding your thoughts. At that moment, it seemed monumental, unbearable, all-encompassing. Yet if you look back on it now, you see that life moved on. The earth did not stop spinning. The sun still rose, the rain still fell, and people around you continued their own journeys, largely unaware of what you were facing. This is not to dismiss your pain, but to put it in perspective. The world is vast. Billions of lives unfold simultaneously, each carrying their own burdens, and the rhythm of existence does not halt for any single person. Recognizing this does not make your struggles meaningless. It makes them manageable. It teaches you that they are part of a much larger fabric, and in that realization, the weight of them lessens. Perspective softens suffering in a way nothing else can. When you step back and see how brief, how fragile, and how fleeting life is, you begin to understand that there is no sense in allowing every hardship to anchor you in despair. Storms will come, but so will calm seas. Seasons of difficulty arrive, but none of them are eternal. The more you zoom out, the more you realize that what feels like an endless winter within you is only one small cycle in the turning of time. And once this truth is grasped, your mind becomes lighter because you stop clinging to the fantasy that everything happening to you is the most important event in the world. It may be important to you, but it is not the axis upon which reality spins, and that humility, that loosening of self-centered weight, is the seed of peace. The ego thrives on exaggeration. It whispers, "They are talking about you. They are watching you. Your struggles matter more than anything else." But once you learn to quiet this voice, you begin to sense the vastness beyond your narrow window. The mountains stand indifferent to your grief. The ocean does not rise and fall to the rhythm of your moods. The stars burn with ancient fire, oblivious to your victories and defeats. At first, this realization may feel humbling, even unsettling, but with time it becomes liberating. For if the world does not revolve around you, then neither do your troubles. They do not carry the cosmic weight you once imagined. They are simply experiences passing through you, no more permanent than clouds drifting across the sky. This awareness opens space for compassion as well. When you understand that others too are navigating their own battles, often invisible, you cease to elevate your own suffering above theirs. You realize that everyone is carrying something: loss, uncertainty, longing, disappointment. And suddenly your pain feels less isolating. Instead of being trapped in the idea that your struggles are the heaviest in existence, you feel joined to the shared human condition. Perspective transforms suffering from a private prison into a shared reality, and this connection eases the loneliness of hardship. You begin to carry your burdens with more dignity, less complaint, and more patience, because you know they are neither unique nor eternal. Life becomes lighter when you stop expecting the world to bend to the weight of your troubles. You begin to laugh at small inconveniences that once provoked anger. You brush aside slights that once wounded you deeply. You endure delays, disappointments, and misunderstandings with greater calm, because you see them not as world-ending catastrophes, but as fragments of an ever-turning story. Peace comes not by denying struggle, but by contextualizing it. A cracked glass is not the collapse of civilization. A missed opportunity is not the end of possibility. A moment of failure is not the death of your potential. When placed in the proper scale, these events lose their power to paralyze you. This peace in perspective is not passivity. It does not mean ignoring problems or failing to act. Rather, it means acting without the suffocating belief that the universe itself is conspiring around your difficulties. You solve what can be solved, endure what must be endured, and release what is beyond your control. You live lighter because you see the truth. Most of what you worry about is smaller than it feels, and most of what you fear passes quicker than you imagine. Perspective allows you to focus your energy where it matters instead of exhausting yourself over imagined catastrophes. In this state, life becomes more spacious. You discover joy in simple things again because you are not constantly overshadowed by self-made drama. The song of a bird, the laughter of a child, the quiet of evening. All these regain their beauty because your mind is not clouded by the belief that everything revolves around your problems. Peace in perspective is a freedom of the spirits. It frees you from the heavy chains of self-absorption and grants you the serenity to live with balance. You no longer carry the world on your shoulders because you see that it was never placed there to begin with. And so, freedom in realization, self-reliance, and detachment from opinions weave together into one unshakable truth. Your life is yours. No one is watching as closely as you fear. No one will carry the weight that belongs to you. And no one's praise or criticism can ever define your worth unless you allow it. The world is filled with noise, shifting attention, fleeting approval, and passing judgment. But beneath it all, there is a stillness within you that cannot be touched. When you see this clearly, you stop living as a performer on someone else's stage. You step into your own light. You speak, act, create, and live with a freedom that cannot be granted by others and cannot be taken away by them either. This is not a rejection of life, but a deeper embrace of it. For in the end, the greatest liberation is simple: to live as you are, unapologetically, courageously, and authentically, and to know at last that this is enough.